We're heading into 2026 with a lot of people still asking the same question. Is the housing market going to get worse or is it going to get better in 2026? And the uncomfortable answer, based on everything that we're seeing right now, is that 2026 is shaping up to be another very difficult year for housing. And for many households, it may actually be harder than 2025. And this isn't about fear and it's not about headlines. It's about the data, the rate environment, and the structural pressures that are already locked in. And once you understand how these pieces fit together, it becomes very clear why relief is not coming from where people are hoping it will. Let's start with the Bank of Canada because that's the foundation for everything else. This past week, the Bank of Canada held rates again, no cut. And more importantly, the language around that decision matters just as much as the decision itself. The bank is now telling us that incoming data has been revised higher. Their models are showing the economy and the labor market are holding up better than they originally anticipated. Not booming, but not deteriorating fast enough to justify rate cuts either. And that's a key point. Unless we see a sudden and significant economic deterioration, the probability of cuts is extremely low. In fact, when you look at overnight markets, futures markets, and rate expectations, they are not pricing in relief. The positioning right now is for no Bank of Canada cuts throughout 2026. Technically, there is one cut priced late in the year, but at the same token, there is even one hike priced in as well. So depending on what commentator you speak to, there are differing opinions in terms of if we're going to see a rate increase or rate decrease sometime in 2026. So from a practical standpoint, rates are likely at or near the bottom today. Variable mortgage rates are unlikely to move lower from here, and fixed rates are already moving in the opposite direction. And that brings us to the bond market. Fixed mortgage rates in Canada are priced off the 5-year Government of Canada bond yield. And over the past month alone, that yield has risen by roughly 30 basis points. That move matters. It tells us fixed mortgage rates are not drifting lower, they are rising. This is why anyone approaching a mortgage renewal should already be in conversations with their bank. In many cases, lenders will allow renewals 3 to 6 months early, and in this environment, that matters. Banks are highly motivated to retain existing clients. Renewal rates are often better than new lender rates, not because banks are being generous, but because it's been a weak year for housing and they don't want to lose business. Case in point, for myself, I had 3 mortgages that I renewed all around the same time frame. And because I was with Scotia, I have 3 mortgages. They were very generous with what they were willing to offer me. And in one case with my principal residence, I locked in 20 months earlier. I was at a prime. I was with a variable rate hold, but I only had a 0.2% discount. And I was able to get a 3.55% fixed for 3 years right before that job data came up and before we saw that uptick in terms of the bond market. So right now, I don't think you can get that 3.55 rate, but it is worth noting that if you are looking for some sort of renewal, you don't need to wait a month or 2 or 3 months away. You should be having conversations with your lender. I've been having conversations with Scotia for 2 years. I was asking them for a sub 4% rate at 3.9 or 3.99 for a while. But as things started to progress further down in terms of the Bank of Canada policy rates and the bond markets, I started to wait a little bit longer for a better moment for me to enter. And that's what I did with that 3.55 rate. So for me, on the personal side of things, I have a 3.55 on my principal. And then with discount, I have 2 3.64 variable rates right now. Obviously, they're a little bit higher because there's more risk with investment properties, but it is important for you to make sure that you are understanding what's going on. And that's why it's also good to be in touch with your agent, your realtor, because they can also help you identify opportunities for you to lock into some advantageous rates. And what we're seeing on the ground is renewal offers clustering very tightly together. Variable rates, 3-year fixed rates, and 5-year fixed rates are all within 20 to 30 basis points of each other, and that's a narrow spread. And when spreads are that tight, the decision becomes less about gaming rates and more about risk tolerance. Choosing variable right now means saving maybe 25 basis points while taking on the risk that rates rise in 2027 or 2028. It also assumes you'll be able to time a lock-in correctly by watching bond yields closely. Most people aren't bond traders. They're not watching the yield curve every day. And the reality is saving a quarter point isn't much compensation for that risk. The important takeaway here is that mortgage rates are not getting meaningfully better in 2026. Fixed rates could actually end up higher than where they are today, and that reality feeds directly into housing demand, seller expectations, and market behavior. This is where sentiment becomes critical. We recently saw a national housing forecast released by Canada's largest real estate brokerage, and while forecasts are often optimistic by nature, this one is not. They are again calling for price declines in Vancouver and the GTA. Vancouver prices are forecast to fall by 3.5% next year, with Toronto down even more. That doesn't inspire confidence, and buyers are responding exactly how you would expect. They're waiting, and they've been waiting all year for a good deal, because when sellers are slow to reduce prices and market conditions continue to worsen, patience is rewarded. Inventory levels tell the same story. Vancouver is sitting around 8 months of inventory. Even if demand improves slightly, that is a massive amount of supply to work through. And when you combine that with mortgage rates that are flat at best, it's very hard to make a bullish case for pricing momentum in 2026. This disconnect between seller expectations and market reality is still one of the biggest issues we're seeing. Sellers continue to believe conditions will improve next year, but next year is now 2026 and the macro setup is not improving. And I'll give you a real world example that illustrates this perfectly. A couple months ago, we sold a condo on Vancouver's east side, and we had an identical unit on the floor above, same orientation, same floor plan, but we were just a little bit cheaper. We were able to find a buyer for that unit. And right after we closed, that unit above us decided to reduce their price, and they reduced it again. And now they're sitting about $11,000 or $12,000 below from what we sold at, and that was just in a span of a couple weeks to about a month. So that just shows you what's happening with this market. And right after sale that was identical, just a floor below, we already have over $11,000 drop in price point. Unlikely that gap is even more, because now a buyer is seeing that new price and is not moving forward on it. In just about 4 to 6 weeks after a sale, you're already seeing a loss of about $10,000 to $20,000. So it's just showing that with this data that we have, we know that we have 11 consecutive months of price declines. For sellers who are waiting for a better time to list in the spring, or just waiting out for that magical buyer, you are going to be losing. And I know it's not something sellers are wanting to hear, but you need to be so strategic with price. You need to be so strategic with your days on market. And if you're not, a buyer is just going to go somewhere else because there's so much selection out there. You have to make it really worth their while, or you're going to pay the consequences of a seller for continuing to wait. Now let's talk about the rental market, because this is where things get even more interesting. Many sellers who can't get the price they want are pivoting to rentals. The thinking is simple: rent it out for a year and then sell later when things improve. But the rental market is no longer tightening, it's completely unhinged. According to the latest data, Vancouver's vacancy rate for purpose-built rentals has risen to 3.7%. That may not sound alarming if you compare it to other North American cities, but for Vancouver, this is the highest level in over 30 years. And context matters. This is a market that is not used to vacancy, it's not used to incentives, and it's not used to free rent or concessions. And yet that's exactly what's starting to happen. The increase in vacancies is being driven in large part by a surge in new purpose-built rental supply coming through federally insured construction programs with long amortizations. Developers who couldn't make pre-sales work are pivoting into rentals to keep projects alive, but this is creating a supply glut. Higher vacancy rates combined with lower rents dramatically change project economics. Performers that once worked no longer pencil, and when those projects don't meet their original debt servicing assumptions at completion, lenders require additional equity injections. Large developers may be able to absorb that, but smaller and mid-sized developers may not. And that's where risk builds. Over the next 12 to 18 months, we are likely to see significant financial strain in that segment of the market. And it's important to be clear here: a 3.7% vacancy rate is still considered healthy in many cities, but Vancouver is not accustomed to this environment. Operators are not built for it, and sentiment shifts quickly when expectations change. Calgary offers a useful comparison. Vacancy rates there are already around 5%, and there's a credible case they could move higher as additional rental supply comes online. The difference is that Alberta investors understand that cycle, where Vancouver investors largely do not. And when you step back and look at the full picture, the message is consistent. And I can speak directly to that myself. This is the first time over the last 12 months or so where it's been very, very hard to find tenants. We are having to lower rents, which we've never had to do before. And we've also suffered a couple months of vacancy because we just could not find anyone to fill those spots. So if your plan is to pivot into the rental market, if you're selling something, not moving, be very cautious about that, because not only are you going to lock in a tenant with a very low rate, it can also be very hard for them to move out later when you do want to sell, or maybe if you have to sell. You can get hammered even more by a buyer, or if you have a fixed term tenancy that goes well into the future at a very low rental rate, that just doesn't make sense for investors. So be very careful and do your consultation properly if you're thinking of pivoting into the rental market. So when you step back and look at the full picture, the message is consistent. The Bank of Canada is likely done cutting rates, mortgage rates are not falling, fixed rates are moving higher, inventory remains elevated, and rental vacancies are rising. Even the most optimistic voices in the industry are calling for price declines. That doesn't mean there won't be opportunities, but it does mean 2026 will reward realism, discipline, and patience, and it will punish denial. This is not a market where you assume time fixes everything. This is a market where pricing correctly, understanding leverage, and recognizing structural shifts matter more than they have in a very long time. As always, I'll continue to watch the data closely and update you all as conditions evolve, but heading into 2026, the message is clear. This environment is not about relief, it's about adjustment. And if you're needing help buying or selling in 2026, make sure you book that discovery call with me. You can scan the QR code in the banner below. The link is also in the description, and make sure that you download my home buyer and seller blueprints as well. Thank you again for your support. I'll see you on the next one.